evening, you're watching Left, Right and Centre. I'm Nidhi Razdan. On the show tonight, it's a life sentence for the Talwars as the judge today explains why he found them guilty. The question is whether justice has been done. Also later in the show, after an outcry, the Supreme Court finally sets up a committee to probe sexual harassment complaints, but with conditions. Does the judiciary have double standards? That's a little later in the show. But first tonight, Rajesh and Nupur Talwar was sentenced to life in prison today for the murders of their daughter Aarushi and domestic help Hemraj more than 5 years ago. Earlier in court, the CBI had argued for the death penalty, saying that this was a rarest of rare case. In his detailed order, which was released just this evening, the judge has said there is no direct evidence in the case, but there is enough circumstantial proof, and then goes on to endorse the CBI theory that this was an honor killing. Now, I'm going to read out some of the main parts of the judgment. As I said, it's just come in the last couple of hours, and it is more than 200 pages long. We have been able to sift through most of it. These were some of the highlights we found. The judge says that it is unnatural that the parents did not cling to and hug Aarushi on seeing her murdered, so he found their behavior questionable. The judge says no outsider would have committed murders and then had whiskey knowing that the parents of the deceased were in the next room. Their priority would have been to run away. He says an outsider would not waste time dressing up the bed sheets, arranging the toys and pillow and covering the dead body. That no outsider would remove Hemraj's body to the terrace and cover it with a cooler panel. That Mr. Talwar admitted that he and his wife have been brought up in a liberal atmosphere, that he takes alcohol at parties, and there is every possibility that whiskey was taken that night by Rajesh Talwar. The judge also going on to say that circumstances unerringly point to the guilt of the accused. They are the authors of this diabolical crime. That many murders, he goes on to say, have been committed without a known or prominent motive. And the mere fact that the prosecution failed to translate mental disposition of the accused into evidence does not mean no such mental condition existed. However, he goes on to then endorse the honor killing theory that had been put forward by the CBI in its case, saying that that was the reason why Aarushi and Hemraj were murdered. So there are lots of parts of this judgment that are still a little confusing and a little baffling, because they do appear to be contradictory in parts, but the judge does say in his conclusion that a motive has been established, and this is what he says the motive was. Well, joining us on the program tonight, we have Vandana Talwar, who is Aarushi's aunt. Also this evening with us is Fiza Jha, Aarushi Talwar's best friend. She joins us from Bangalore tonight. Mr. Ved Maharba, the former commissioner of the Delhi Police, is in the studio with us. The former director of the CBI, Mr. R.K. Raghavan, joins us tonight from Chennai, and well-known criminal lawyer Satish Manishinde joins us this evening from Mumbai. Vandana Talwar, to you first. You've heard some of these points from the detailed order today. I just want your thoughts on that. The judge says there's no direct evidence, but the circumstantial evidence was enough, and that to his mind proved beyond a doubt that the parents did it.
Well, what can I comment on the wisdom of the judge? If there is no direct evidence, it's the same as it was in the closure report, no? Like what extra has been added? If there is no evidence and there's circumstantial evidence, then some string of events has to be established, some sequence of events has to be established to arrive at a proper decision. So, to my mind, there is no evidence. So,
you know, the judge also though goes on to say that no outsider, for instance, would commit the murders, then drink whiskey knowing that the parents were in the other room. They wouldn't dress up the crime scene. They wouldn't cover the dead body. They wouldn't arrange the toys. Their priority would be to run away.
Propagated from day one. Now, no outsider would enter the crime scene. As how is it possible? Why is it not possible? Because Hemraj's room is there. It's the first room in the house, and the entry of the house is only from the main door. So anybody who sort of rings a bell on the main door, like in the daytime, it would be opened by the servant or the maid, whoever is there. So in this case, it was Hemraj. So if Hemraj can open the door to anyone in the morning, then he can do the same at night. So it need not have been a forced entry at all. So it's very much possible that there was a friendly entry, and the three people whom we feel there is a lot of evidence to say, if they've done it, then they probably assembled in the room of Hemraj, and they did whatever they had to, and probably the alcohol bottle was also left by them.
But yeah, go ahead, finish.
Plus, in addition, there is the sound simulation test, which was also done by the CBI team, but which the CBI team decided not to put in the court. Now, this test was done by Arun Kumar, the joint director of the first CBI team, in which they did it in June 2008 between 12 and 1 at midnight. at the likely time of the murders. So when they switched on the ACs in both the rooms and closed Aarushi's and Rajesh's room, and they could find that loud sounds made in Aarushi's room did not reach Rajesh and Nupur's room. So it is very much possible that
yes, but the judge also says, he also says that it's not possible
by them.
The judge also
what I'm trying to say is that the CBI had this test with them. They themselves had done it.
You just feel at the end of the day that everything that was there wasn't presented.
It was not put into court. So isn't that what is important? If they had nothing to hide, then why did they not put all the evidence into court and let the court decide?
What about the honor killing theory? The judge has endorsed the honor killing theory. What would you say to that?
He endorses the honor killing theory, because I really don't know the details, because
I know it's just come in the last couple of hours.
Honor killing theory. So then we go back to the sudden and grave provocation theory. Now tell me, where is the basis? If he says that Rajesh found Hemraj and Aarushi in a compromising position, he got angry and killed. I guess that's what you mean, or that's what probably is meant.
It's a fairly graphic detail in the judgment.
Yeah, okay. So if that is the thing, what is the basis for it? Then if they've killed Hemraj in the room of Aarushi, there has to be blood or DNA or semen or sputum of something on Hemraj. But no such thing of Hemraj has been found. No blood, no DNA.
And the judgment
on
says
the
that
mattress,
as well.
on the bed sheet, on the pillow cover. In no part of the room of Aarushi has this been found. In addition, Hemraj was found murdered on the next day in the roof with his chappals, with his kada and his watch on. Now, is it possible, you just tell me, first of all, no blood of Hemraj is there in the room of Aarushi. Secondly, if the parents, as they so claim, they have dragged the body, taken him up the stairs, there has to be some blood. There has to be some blood on the staircase. And was Hemraj in that kind of compromising position with his chappals on?
No, and the judge also says, though, he doesn't believe that that an outsider would take the trouble to drag his body up to the roof and then lock the roof and not bother to run away. But you're right, there are just so many unanswered questions.
No, that's exactly what I'm trying to say, Nidhi. That Hemraj was probably, he walked up the stairs himself, he was in his chappals with the other people who had gathered in his room, and that's where he was killed, because there's an expert committee of AIIMS which in 2008 they have said it's most likely that Hemraj was killed on the terrace, because there is no evidence. The closure report itself says there is no evidence that Hemraj was killed in the room of Aarushi. Then how does the sudden and grave provocation theory hold?
Okay, let me take that to Mr. Raghavan. Mr. Raghavan, do you believe that justice has really been done in this case, or that there are just too many unanswered questions that keep popping up?
Yeah, unfortunately, both the CBI and the judge are being assailed because they are heavily dependent on circumstantial evidence. There is a pathetic lack of direct evidence, as a result of which they have depended on circumstantial evidence, and because of this, it is easy to pick holes in the prosecution story. But ultimately, the judge had come to an honest conclusion that the circumstances were so clinching that no other conclusion was possible. I quite appreciate the gravity of the devastation caused to the Talwars. I don't underestimate at all. The positive aspect of the whole situation is that this is a purely trial court decision. It definitely will be taken to the High Court. The whole evidence will be subjected to greater clinical scrutiny, and then the High Court will come to its own decision. So you must also remember that the judge, although he concluded that both the couple were guilty of murder, he stopped short of awarding death sentence. That itself showed that either he was clement or he had his own slight misgivings on the quantum of evidence available to convict them to.
But Mr. Raghavan, when a judge has misgivings, as you say, sir, in a murder trial like this, you know, there is the whole theory of beyond reasonable doubt, which the judge has also gone on to explain at great length in the judgment. But you know, if there is some doubt, then should there be a conviction? I mean, I want to ask Mr. Marwa actually first, and I'll come to back to you on that. Sir, what does this tell us about the way murders are investigated? Okay, Mr. Raghavan, you answer it first. The question of investigations in this country, because this is not about one murder probe. It has exposed to the horror of many the way investigations are carried out in these kind of cases in this country. I'm sure you would agree, Mr. Raghavan, that this hasn't been the most professionally conducted investigation.
Yeah, there are several circumstances which showed the first investigation in poor light, and possibly the CBI also Possibly, because I'm not privy to fact. This happened much after I left. It is possible there are shortcomings in the CBI story as well. They couldn't fill in details left vague by the first investigating officer. But then you must understand that the judge did not award death sentence, not because he was not convinced of the facts, but in fact the whole story was built on circumstantial evidence. And what is required for the award of a death sentence is conclusive proof. I'm surprised neither the newspapers nor anybody knowledgeable pointed this out, that anything short of conclusive evidence will not merit the death sentence or a conclusion of murder. Here, the judge, in the absence of direct evidence, he was convinced that there was only circumstantial evidence, and although he came to the conclusion it's a case of murder, he awarded only life sentence.